All right, welcome to Dr. Primo's Biblical Teaching. I'm Dr. Sonny Primo, and I'm coming to you live from Fort Worth, Texas. And for those of you listening later, this is a recorded message. Anyway, the reason I am on here tonight is because of all of the things that have been happening and all the things that have been, all the talking about the end times and oh my gosh, is Obama the Antichrist? Oh my gosh, is the Pope the false prophet? And this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 and all this doom and gloom and all this other crap that everybody's talking about. Everybody wants to talk about biblical prophecy, but nobody wants to keep it in the context. Nobody wants to keep it where it's at. Everybody wants to just lump it into our time frame, this dispensation of grace. And so the things that I am about to share would normally be reserved for my advanced students. However, because of the time frame and because of everybody wanting to just throw things out there, I definitely felt like I needed to address some things. And I know I've got friends that talk about it and friends that disagree, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to bring it to you, and I'm going to bring it to you straight from the Word of God, and I'm going to show you some things that don't get talked about by the end time preachers, and things that if you looked at it biblically, you would definitely know. Instead of just believing what somebody says about it, maybe you ought to just read it for yourselves and understand. And you got to divide the word, rightly divide the word, keep it in the context as to what program. Failure to rightly divide the word into its proper programs. And what I mean by that is God has a particular program in which He is dealing with Israel. And He has a particular program in which He is dealing with Gentiles and everybody else in this dispensation of grace, including Jews during this dispensation of grace, because during this dispensation of grace, the mystery of which God kept hid in Himself before the foundations of the world that nobody knew, and He revealed it to the Apostle Paul. And the Apostle Paul, who is our apostle, by the way, not Peter, James, John, and all the other 12 apostles, but the Apostle Paul is the apostle to the Gentiles, and he has given us what we need in this dispensation of grace and how we are to conduct ourselves, and also the program, the curriculum for our sonship edification was laid out by the Apostle Paul. Anyway, but enough about that. What I am going to talk about is the Antichrist and how the things that you are seeing unfold today cannot possibly be end-time events or tribulation events. And I'm happily going to tell you why. Now, again, this is information that was normally reserved for my advanced students that have been with me through the curriculum thus far, those that are following along with me and have been with me. But this is in Romans chapter 13, verse 12. It says, "The night is far spent, the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light." There's so many things here I could say, but just because many of you don't have the foundations of what a lot of this pertains to, I'm not going to go into great detail. And everything that we have studied so far up to this point is designed to produce godly thinking concerning Satan's night of darkness, the world's iniquity, our Heavenly Father's attitude, which is an important thing, the timing and effect of the dispensation of grace, and the legally changed temporary position of the world. Now that godly thinking works to produce some things in our inner man. Number one, our Father's attitude toward the ungodly world. Number two, our Father's attitude toward Satan's activities in the world. And number three, the desire to do something about Satan and his policy of evil. Now, in view of the edification components of the passage, the godly thinking should naturally lead to a particular conduct and behavior on our part. Okay? Excuse me. In a sense, what Satan has done and continues to do ought to provoke an outrage that makes us ask, what can we do about it? Now, it should therefore come as no surprise that God has something for us to do in response to Satan's night. Now, an important part of what we are to put on display is an intelligent understanding. And I repeat that, an intelligent understanding of these four things. What Satan has done to redevelop the world of the ungodly. Number two, what God has done in response to Satan. You know, the cross, the dispensation of grace, those things. Number three, Satan's needs to keep his works of darkness at a high level. And there's a reason why he has to do that. And number four, how important they are to his activities once this dispensation of grace is over. And that is important. Now, in addition to us displaying an intelligent understanding of what has taken place and where things stand in the world right now, again, like I say, this is normally information reserved for my advanced students. So, you're getting some pretty deep stuff here. And some of it you may not quite understand because you don't have some of the foundation work. But that's okay. If you will send me an email at primomin@hotmail.com. That's PRIMOMIN @hotmail.com. Or if you will personal message me through Facebook. That's facebook.com/SonnyPrimo. I will be glad to supply you with the foundational material that you will need. Okay? Not only, are we to have an intelligent, putting on display an intelligent understanding of what's going on, or what has taken place, where things stand in the world right now. I want you to know that we are given the privilege of making an impact to God's glory by casting off those works of darkness and putting on the armor of light. This is the godly living aspect of our edification. There are three things of God. You know, godliness is comprised of three components: thinking like God, living like God, and laboring with Him in what He is doing. So we have some work to do as we wrap up the godly part. You know, the godly thinking. That's what this pertains to. And then we're going to start moving into godly living aspect of the passage at hand. Now, once our thinking has produced our Father's attitude in us and created a desire to do something about Satan's activities, and we've begun to cast off those works of darkness and put on the armor of light, then we're ready to labor with the Father in His operation against Satan and his policies of evil. Now, this is the issue that provokes a response from the adversary, and it makes us into more than conquerors. This contention is the arena where Satan will seek to separate us from the love of Christ. Now, this right here, we're talking about battling. And this armor of light, when you put on this armor of light, Satan knows you. He finally sees you, and he knows you're a threat. No matter where we are in the dispensation of grace, the statement that begins in Romans chapter 13, verse 12, describes perfectly the condition of things at this present time. Even though Satan's night and his works of darkness continue, as long as the world is in the position of being reconciled, then Satan's final act is on hold. So he has to keep stirring the pot. He's got to keep it mixed up. There's nothing taking place in the world that can be considered the fulfillment or the setup for the time when God resumes his program with Israel. Now, arguments which say that world events are lining up with prophetic issues or things can't get much worse are not biblical in nature. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. In history, we see that a generation has the faith and the form that stems from the faith. The next generation rejects the faith but realizes the benefits and the form, and so they keep the form. Now, for all intents and purposes, they borrow the biblical concepts, but by refusing to give God glory, they mingle those concepts with their own humanistic doctrines, creating a spiritually mongrelized society which consists of combining godly concepts, without the godliness part, with worldly or heathen and even devilish concepts. I'm sure that many of you can see that happening today. Now, the next generation correctly understands there is no basis for the godly concepts without the faith from which they stem. Now, at that point, they will either reject the form and continue down the road to further corruption, or they will return to the faith. Now, this is the pattern that has been repeated over and over throughout history. Everywhere in the world, those nations or those people which have returned to the faith will return to this point again at some time in the future. Those nations or people which reject the form and the faith become Satan's hotbeds of evil in the world. And as they progressively manifest the worst of the heathen cultural practices, which were so pervasive back when Gentiles were on the other side of the wall of partition, when they were without God in the world and without hope, things like occult practices and being possessed of devils are more prominent in those nations or in those places. The same kind of thing will be happening out in the day of wrath. Now, Peter warns the believing remnant, and that's the believing remnant of Israel, of the intense evil that will be manifested at that time. In 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 12, it says, "But these, as natural brute beasts, made to be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption." Now, in order to drive home the end result of the nation of the people that decide to reject the form along with the faith, their only hope is the light of the gospel of Christ. Now, if they do receive the light of the truth that they may be saved, then they have a renewed opportunity to have both the faith and the form. Then the cycle starts all over again with each succeeding generation making choices that will determine the direction and the substance of their culture. And I assure you that everything that these preachers are preaching, the prosperity gospel and this make you feel good gospel, let's not talk about things that make you that bring you down. Let's talk about everything that's good and everything. Let's tickle your ears. This has all happened before. This is nothing new. What I'm showing you by all of this is that you cannot start looking at where things have gotten to in the world and think that it must be near the end. Things have been here before, and they will get to this place again. Nations and people are impacted by their response to the light of the truth and by the effects of Satan's night of darkness upon them. And God does not need for anything to line up so that he can do something once this dispensation of grace is over. Once this dispensation of grace is over, God's next move is to resume his program with Israel, the one he put on hold when he revealed this mystery program. God does not need anything to happen in order to bring this program about. And I'm going to tell you, this mystery program started without warning, was never prophesied about, and it's going to end in the exact same way. Satan's next move is to arrange world events for the revealing of his man of sin. Now, when I say he needs to arrange world events, I mean that there are some things that must take place in order for his man of sin to come on the world stage. Now, I want to give you an example of what I'm talking about without getting too far ahead, all right? Here's an example of why this cannot happen in a day or in such an immediate type time frame. The Old Testament prophets have already told us that the coming Antichrist will be the Assyrian. Now, we have also been told about the Antichrist's fathers. 1 Chronicles chapter 5, verse 23. And the children of the half-tribe of Manasseh dwelt in the land. They increased from Bashan to Baal Hermon to Senir, and unto Mount Hermon. And these were the heads of the house of their fathers, even Epher, and Ishi, and Eliel, and Azriel, and Jeremiah, and Hadaviah, and Jahadiel, mighty men of valor, famous men, and heads of the house of their fathers. And they transgressed against the God of their fathers, and went a-whoring after the gods of the people of the land, whom God destroyed before them. Verse 26 is what I'm after. And the God of Israel stirred up the spirit of Pul, king of Assyria, and the spirit of choke me up on this. Tilgath-Pilneser, king of Assyria, and he carried them away. Now that's the same person, by the way. Even the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh, and brought them unto Halah and Habor and Herah, and to the river Gozan, unto this day. Now, as Assyrian kings, they were heads of the house. When the Lord has his day of wrath, he will deliver Israel and destroy Satan's plan of evil. In Habakkuk 3, verse 12, it says, Thou didst march through the land in indignation. Thou didst thresh the heathen in anger. Thou wentest forth for the salvation of thy people, even for salvation with thine anointed. Thou woundest the head of the house of the wicked, by discovering the foundation unto the neck. Selah. The Antichrist is from a particular house. As king, he is the head of that house. The kings before him were also heads of the house. And again, this is going to be a series of programs, sessions that I'm going to do, because I've only got a half hour at a time that I can do this. Anyway, when Satan uses a particular nation against the nation of Israel in connection with contending for the land, the Bible identifies that nation as a beast. Satan is referred to as a dragon, according to Revelation chapter 12, and as Leviathan in Job 41, as he uses the nations to control the land of Israel. Job 41 verse 1, Canst thou draw out Leviathan with an hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Verse 22, In his neck remaineth strength, and sorrow is turned into joy before him. Leviathan is Satan, and his strength is in his neck. The head of the house is the Antichrist, and Satan gives him strength. Therefore, when the Lord destroys the head of the house, he does it by discovering the foundation unto the neck. In other words, he doesn't just deal with the Antichrist, the head of the house, but he takes care of Satan too. Now, as far as the nations themselves being beasts, all we have to do is look at the books of Jeremiah and Daniel, and we will see, Assyrian is called a lion. Babylon is a lion. The Media Persia is a bear. Grecia is a leopard. They are all beasts. The two lions are the ones who carry away the two kingdoms, Israel and Judah. Assyria, the northern kingdom, took the northern kingdom of Israel, and Babylon took the southern kingdom of Judah. Jeremiah chapter 50 verse 17. Israel is scattered sheep. The lions, notice that's plural, have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria hath devoured him, and last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, hath broken his bones. Now, having seen that a nation is often referred to as a beast, when Satan utilizes it in his contest over the land of Israel, let us look at a particular beast which will constitute the house of the man of sin. In Revelation chapter 17 verse 3 it says, So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, while there's much to look at here, all we are after is the scarlet-colored beast. That beast has 7 heads and 10 horns. Revelation chapter 17 verse 7, And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Now, follow carefully what we are about to read about the beast. I want you to look closely. The 7 heads are 7 kings, which are heads over house of the nation of Assyria. And verse 10 in Revelation chapter 17, And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and another one is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. Now John tells us the total number of kings of this beast is 7. He also tells us 5 are fallen. That is, by the time of the Lord's day, the Lord's day of wrath that is coming, not yet here. Five of them have already come and gone. What? You mean I've been told wrong all these years? Yes, you have. Because Scripture has been taken out of context and not read. 5 have come and gone. You got this Tilagathapilnezer. You've got Shalamazar. You got Sargon. You got Sennacherib and Esarhaddon. All 5 of those. Revelation 17 is the same as Daniel's 4th beast. Now we get introduced to this 4th beast in Daniel chapter 11, verses 5 through 20. And I'm really surprised. Well, I'm not really surprised, because when you don't rightly divide the word and understand that part of the Bible, of the separation of Israel's program from the mystery program, you'll try to mingle it with us today and try to find these beasts located in the world somewhere today, and you're not going to find them. Anyway, we get introduced to this 4th beast in Daniel chapter 11. And that's where we will see 2 more kings. Now remember what we read in Revelation 17. One is, and the other is not yet come, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Now remember, these are things which will take place once Israel's program is resumed. Once it's resumed. So 5 kings are fallen, 2 more are yet to come. Look at Daniel chapter 11, verse 5. Well, I'm going to have to stop right there, because I'm out of time for this evening. It's not because I'm out of time for this session. But I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to do another session as soon as this one is over. I'm going to come right back and do a second session. So, if you're listening, come right back. Daniel chapter 11, verse 5 is where we're